His name was William Carter, though everyone at the Marine Corps Scout Sniper School just called him Bill the Janitor. At 72 years old, with white hair and a white beard that had long since replaced the clean-cut appearance of his youth, he arrived every morning at 5 to clean the classrooms and firing ranges. His red jacket was faded from years of wear, stretched over a simple grey t-shirt that had seen better days. His face carried the weight of decades, always sad, always serious, eyes that seemed to look through people rather than at them. The young Marines barely noticed him. To them, he was just part of the furniture, another old man pushing a broom through their world of precision and power. But 30 years ago, William Carter had been something else entirely. He had been the ghost in the jungle, the whisper in the wind, the last thing enemy combatants never saw coming. His record stood untouched on a plaque in the main building, a name without a face for most of the current cadets. Carter, William J. Range qualification, 2,000 yards, perfect score, 1973. The brass plate was polished weekly, ironically by the same hands that had set the record, though no one made the connection. The current cadets walked past it every day, dreaming of matching that legendary achievement, never knowing the legend mopped their floors. The trouble started on a Tuesday morning in late September. A new class of sniper candidates had arrived, cocky and eager, fresh from their basic reconnaissance training. Their instructor, Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb, was a decorated marksman himself, proud and particular about maintaining the school's reputation. He gathered his students on the 1,000-yard range, gesturing toward the distant targets that shimmered in the heat. "Only 3 men have ever qualified perfect at 2,000 yards from this school," Webb announced, his voice carrying authority. "The last one was 30 years ago. Some old-timer named Carter. Probably got lucky." William was cleaning the observation tower windows when he heard his name. His hands paused on the squeegee, but his expression didn't change. That sad, serious face remained still as stone. He continued his work in silence as he had for 3 decades, invisible to the young warriors below. "Sir, do you think anyone in our class could break that record?" one of the cadets asked, a tall kid from Texas with more confidence than experience. Webb smiled. "Break it? Son, I'm not sure that record is even legitimate. 30 years ago, equipment wasn't what it is now. Scopes weren't as advanced. Wind reading was practically guesswork. I'd bet half my pension that if this Carter showed up today, he couldn't hit a target at 500 yards, let alone 2,000. The cadets laughed. William's hands tightened almost imperceptibly on his mop handle, but he said nothing. He never did. What would be the point? These young men had their own paths to walk, their own lessons to learn. His time had passed. He was just the janitor now. But fate has a way of forcing lessons when they're needed most. The following week, the school's commanding officer, Colonel James Harrison, announced a special competition. The Marine Corps was celebrating its anniversary, and every sniper school in the country would send their best candidate to a championship qualification. The winner would receive recognition, promotion consideration, and the honour of representing their school. More importantly, they would attempt to break some of the oldest records in the books. Staff Sergeant Webb immediately began pushing his top candidate, the cocky Texan named Derek Mills. Mills was good, everyone admitted that. He had natural talent, steady hands, and the kind of aggressive confidence that sometimes translated to excellence under pressure. Webb spent hours with him on the range, coaching every breath, every trigger pull. The rest of the cadets watched with envy and admiration. William watched too, from his position cleaning the brass casings from the firing line. He saw the talent in young Mills, but he also saw the flaw. The boy was rushing his breathing, anticipating the shot instead of letting it happen naturally. His spotter corrections were good, but Mills wasn't truly listening, wasn't feeling the wind the way you needed to at extreme distances. William said nothing. It wasn't his place. The day before the qualifier, disaster struck. Mills was practicing at 1,500 yards when something went wrong. Maybe it was pressure, maybe it was fatigue, but his technique fell apart. Shot after shot missed the target entirely. Webb's face grew redder with each failure. "What the hell is wrong with you, Mills? You're shooting like a boot fresh off the bus." Mills was shaking, his confidence shattered. The other cadets watched in uncomfortable silence. Webb called off the practice in disgust. "If you shoot like this tomorrow, You'll embarrass this entire school. 30 years we've held our reputation, and you're going to flush it down the toilet." As the range cleared, William remained behind, slowly sweeping the concrete firing line. Mills sat alone on a bench, head in his hands. The young Marine looked up at the old janitor with red eyes. "I don't know what I'm doing wrong," he said quietly, not really expecting an answer from the maintenance man. William paused in his sweeping. For a long moment he was silent, that sad, serious face contemplating something distant. Then, in a voice rough from disuse in matters of instruction, he spoke. "You're thinking too much about the shot. Not enough about the wind." Mills blinked in surprise. "What?" "The wind at 1,500 yards, it's not the same as at the firing line. You're correcting for what you feel here, not for what's happening out there. You need to read the mirage, watch the grass at the target, feel how the air moves in layers." Mills stared at the old man. "How do you know about shooting?" William returned to his sweeping. "I've been around a long time. You see things." Something in his voice made Mills pay attention. "Can you show me?" William's hand stopped. He looked at the young Marine for a long moment, decades of memories flickering behind those sad eyes. "I'm just a janitor, son. You need a qualified instructor. Staff Sergeant Webb left. There's no one else here. Please, I don't want to let everyone down tomorrow." The old man set his broom against the wall slowly, deliberately. He walked to the firing line with a gait that suddenly seemed less shuffled, more purposeful. "Show me your position," he said quietly. For the next hour, as the sun set over the California hills, William Carter became something he hadn't been in 30 years. His voice remained soft, but it carried knowledge that couldn't be faked. He adjusted Mills's breathing pattern, showed him how to read wind indicators at multiple distances simultaneously, explained the way temperature layers affected bullet trajectory at extreme range. Mills listened with growing amazement. This wasn't basic instruction. This was mastery. "Who are you?" Mills finally asked as darkness fell. William picked up his broom again, his face returning to that sad, serious expression. "Nobody important. Just try what I showed you tomorrow. Trust the wind." Mills watched the old janitor shuffle away into the evening, red jacket disappearing into shadow. Something wasn't right about this. Something didn't add up. He pulled out his phone and called his girlfriend, who worked in the school's administration office. "Hey, can you look up something for me? There's a janitor here named William, last name may be Carter. I need to know his background." 20 minutes later, his phone rang. His girlfriend's voice was shaking. "Derek, do you know who you've been talking to? William James Carter. 2 tours in Vietnam, Silver Star, Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart, confirmed kills classified but estimated over 90. He held the qualification record at your school for 30 years. After he retired, he came back and asked for a job. Any job. Said he couldn't stand being away from the ranges. They gave him janitorial work because it was all that was available. Derek, that man is a legend." Mills felt his blood run cold. The janitor they'd all ignored, the old man they'd laughed about, was the same Carter whose record they'd been trying to break. He'd been there the whole time, invisible, listening to them mock his achievement. Mills thought about Staff Sergeant Webb's words, calling the record lucky, suggesting Carter couldn't shoot anymore. The shame burned in his chest. The next morning Mills arrived at the range early. William was already there, emptying trash cans with that same quiet dignity. "Sir," Mills said, and the word made William turn slowly. "I know who you are. I'm sorry. We're all sorry. We should have shown respect." William's sad face didn't change. "You didn't know. It doesn't matter." "It does matter. Staff Sergeant Webb said things about your record, about whether it was even real." For the first time, something flickered in William's eyes. Not anger, but something deeper. Disappointment, perhaps. "What the staff sergeant believes is his business. Will you come watch me shoot today, please?" William nodded slowly. "I'll be there. I'm always there." The qualification began at 0800. Colonel Harrison himself was present, along with Staff Sergeant Webb and observers from other schools. Mills took his position at the firing line, his spotter beside him. The targets ranged from 500 to 2,000 yards, each one requiring perfect precision. Mills remembered everything William had taught him. He slowed his breathing, read the wind in layers, let each shot happen naturally instead of forcing it. One by one, his rounds found their marks. 500 yards, perfect. 700, perfect. 1,000, perfect. The observers began murmuring. Webb's expression shifted from confident to concerned. Mills continued, his focus absolute. 1,200 yards, perfect. 1,500, the distance where he'd fallen apart yesterday, perfect. The crowd was silent now, watching something special unfold. At 1,800 yards, Mills paused. The wind had shifted, a complex pattern that would require perfect reading. He glanced back at the observation area where William stood in his red jacket, apart from the others. The old man gave the slightest nod. Mills made his correction and fired. Perfect. 2,000 yards, the legendary distance. The target was barely visible even through the spotting scope, a tiny speck of paper in the distance. Mills settled into his position, feeling the wind, reading the mirage, letting his training and William's wisdom merge into instinct. He pressed the trigger. The spotter called it before the target confirmed. Dead center. The range erupted. Mills had done it. Perfect qualification at 2,000 yards, matching the record that had stood for 3 decades. Colonel Harrison was shaking his hand, other cadets were cheering, but Mills was looking past them all to where William stood alone, that sad, serious face showing the faintest hint of something that might have been pride. Staff Sergeant Webb approached Mills, professional smile in place. Outstanding shooting, Marine. You've brought honour to this school. Mills looked his instructor in the eye. I had help, sir. The janitor, Mr. Carter, he coached me yesterday evening, showed me things I wasn't getting. Webb's smile froze. The janitor? Yes, sir. William Carter. The same Carter whose record I just matched. The legend you said probably got lucky. The colour drained from Webb's face. Around them, conversation stopped. Colonel Harrison turned slowly. Carter. Bill Carter is here. Mills pointed to where William had been standing, but the old man was gone, slipped away in the commotion, back to his mop and bucket. Harrison's expression hardened. Staff Sergeant Webb, my office now. He turned to Mills. Where is Mr. Carter? They found him in the equipment shed, organising cleaning supplies with the same quiet dignity he brought to everything. Colonel Harrison entered, and William straightened slowly, that sad face neutral. Sir. Bill, why didn't you tell me Mills came to you for help? Wasn't important, sir. Just helped a Marine who asked. Harrison shook his head. Everything about you's important to this school. You're not just a janitor, Bill. You never were. He turned to the crowd that had gathered outside the shed. This man set the record that stood for 30 years. This man trained some of the finest snipers who ever served, and we've had him emptying our trash cans because we were too blind to see what was right in front of us. Webb stepped forward, his face pale. Mr. Carter, I owe you an apology. The things I said about your record, about your abilities, they were ignorant and disrespectful. I'm sorry. William looked at the younger man for a long moment. You didn't know what you didn't know, Staff Sergeant. No harm done. There is harm done, Harrison said firmly. Bill, I'm offering you a position as a senior instructor. Full rank restoration if you'll accept it. This school needs your knowledge, your experience. These young Marines need to learn from the best, and you're the best we've ever had. William's hands, weathered and worn, trembled slightly. His sad eyes grew distant, looking at something only he could see. I'm 72 years old, Colonel. My time passed a long time ago. Your time is now, Bill, if you'll take it. The old man in the red jacket stood silent for what felt like an eternity. Then slowly he nodded. On one condition, sir. I keep the janitorial work too. These ranges, these classrooms, they're sacred ground. Someone needs to care for them properly, Harrison smiled. Done. In the weeks that followed, William Carter became what he should have been all along. A respected instructor, a living legend, a bridge between generations of warriors. He still wore his red jacket and t-shirt, still kept that sad, serious expression. But now, when he walked the ranges, young Marines stopped and listened when he spoke. His insights, earned through blood and sacrifice in jungles half a world away, shaped a new generation of protectors. Mills went on to win the national championship, and when he accepted his award, he brought William onto the stage with him. This honour belongs to the man who taught me that true skill isn't about ego or reputation. It's about quiet excellence, about doing the work even when no one's watching, about maintaining your standards even when the world has forgotten who you are. The plaque in the main building received a new addition. Below William's record from 1973, they added new words: Instructor Emeritus, William J. Carter, still teaching, still serving, still the standard. On quiet mornings, you can still find him there before dawn, an old man in a red jacket cleaning the firing lines with the same care he brings to everything. But now, the young Marines who arrive early don't walk past him. They stop. They ask questions. They listen. And in learning from him, they learn the most important lesson of all, that greatness doesn't announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it pushes a mop in silence, waiting patiently for the moment when it's needed most, ready to serve one more time. Respect isn't given to those who demand it. It's earned by those who serve without seeking recognition, who maintain their excellence in obscurity, who remain ready to answer the call even when the world has moved on. William Carter embodied that truth every day for 30 years, and in doing so, he taught a lesson more valuable than any marksmanship technique: that real honor lives in the quiet dignity of service, regardless of whether anyone is watching.